Hello, scrappers, recyclers, and investors who are interested in industries that surround the scrapping and recycling business. It is great to be with you here on another Shark Scrapper Live. We're having a beautiful day here in Western North Carolina. The mountains are sunny. Yeah, there's a few clouds popping around and chilly. I hope you all have had a great week and are looking forward to another fun week ahead. We're going to have some rain in our forecast, but that's all right. That's what happens. Uh, Big hello to everybody that's already up here in the panel. Andrew Powell coming in from New Zealand. Good morning, sir. Welcome. Scrapping Irish on the other side of the other pond. Good evening to you, sir. That's right, recycling. David Delay, Roger at CU Scrapping, JR at Cat. Great to have you all here. Got folks saying hi to each other there in the chat. Fantastic. I tell you what, it's been a busy week. You saw I had that video that come out that where I'm fine tuning my workstation and my setup in the shop. I'm almost there. I think I got it. The bones of it are laid out really well. Now it's just fine tuning and finding the right kind of bins and things that I want to have. So we're making some really good progress there. We've got a great live stream planned for today. There's been a big announcement in gold. So we're going to talk about gold today. We're going to look at what's going on with copper. We have a very seasonal safety item for today that I think you all will enjoy. And then we're going to talk about some stocks in the, I don't know if you want to call them the steel industry or the recycling industry because they kind of cross both worlds here. So we've got some really good discussions to go on there as well. It's just going to be a really fun hour here talking about what's going on in these really interesting articles for us. Patrick, great to have you here. Right now then, before we get going too much further here, Roger, if you would please put up the link for either Roger or Irish, if either one of you could put up the link for Everyday Solar's charity calendar. Again, please, that would be awesome. For those of you that may not know, Everyday Solar's another scrapping creator for that we all hang out with, has put together a calendar for 2025, and the proceeds are going to some very worthy charities. These were charities that assisted her and her family while she was helping her nephew get through, not get through, but dealing with cancer. So really rough for the family, but these charities were there to help them. And she wants to give back, and that's always a good thing to do. One of those charities, I can tell you from my own family's personal experience, Ronald McDonald House, they do a great job of supporting families that are dealing with very difficult things like that. And if you ever go to McDonald's and you don't know what to do with your change, just chuck it in that little change container that they have by the window or round up if you have that option, because Ronald McDonald House is legit. They do a really good job. And I can tell you that from the personal experience of my family. Richard Hulbert, welcome to the show. Great to have you here. Electronic Scrapper, great to have you here. It is really great that so many people are coming in and joining us. And it's really great to get back to regular lives again. I tell you what, it's been really rough with the recovery up here in Western North Carolina. For a long time, we would be losing internet power, things like that, but it's really stabilizing now in the last few weeks, and I'm very comfortable now being able to come up regularly with everyone. All right, without any further ado, let's get into our discussion of gold. Now, we're going to start out today by talking about the gold first from the view of the APMEX charts. Now, some of you may recall I used to use the APMEX charts almost exclusively for precious metals. Now, the reason why I want to go back here is, once again, I'm not sponsored by APMEX. It's just a company that I have used in order to buy and sell my physical gold and silver. And that's the only way that I keep my gold and silver is in physical form. rounds and bars and such. And I like the charts. It doesn't give me as much flexibility as when I use the trading economics charts because I can't show the candlesticks. But what I do like is that AppMax does run 24/7 all week long. So even on the weekends when the US markets are closed, AppMax is showing what's going on with pricing. As you can see here, we're looking at the 24 hours. And, it's kind of down here for the 24 hour. Here we go. So down for the 24 hour, but we're still doing really well in the 26, near 2650 range, which is very nice. If we look at the 3-day chart, we see that there's been some volatility here. We were cruising along and then we had this pit and we climb back out of that and we're cruising along and we drop again, we climb back out of that. Now we've had this sort of slow downward progression here. If we take a look at the 1 week, now we're getting into a little more longer term, and you can kind of see that, overall we're down some, but we climbed up out of a drop. Then we had this pit that we talked about before, climb back out of that, and we're starting to come back down again. But again, this really isn't a whole lot of price fluctuation. We're talking about 2670 down to 2630. $40 swings in gold prices are not huge. They might seem huge to us in the in our scrapping recycling world, but for those people that deal with the gold market regularly, that's not huge swings. All right, here's our 1 month, and you can see now as we start getting into these longer time frames, it's kind of smoothed out a bit. Let's go year to date here real quick, and we can see that year to date gold is up. And this is really nice because this is what has allowed our scrap yards and places like boardsort.com to offer us really good gold or scrap prices on our electronic scrap, because motherboards are primarily bought based on the value of the gold that the motherboards or the RAM or any of the other products can provide. We're going to go in here and take a look at 1 year. So this means we're going back 365 days, and we still see that upward trend. And at the 5-year mark, this is really good for us in the scrapping world, in the gold world. Love seeing that. If we go all the way out, we can see that, gold was not doing a whole lot in the early days, had a slow climb out. Then we had this kind of bowl kind of thing go on here. But we've really been on a nice climb here for gold since 2023-ish. So that's really nice. We like seeing that, and that really helps us in the scrapping world. Now, the other reason I wanted to use the AppMax chart here real quick is because in the holiday season, sometimes people get stuck. They don't know what to give. So if you're interested in kind of a fun gift, a nice little keepsake for folks, gold might be a little bit rich unless you do these small piece golds. I'm not a big fan of fractional gold, but I invest for investment purposes, not as gifts. But fractional gold will carry a very high premium, and that's the reason why I wanted to talk about this. Let's go over to silver real quick. And the thing that I wanted to show is that when you're talking about any kind of precious metal, whether it's silver or gold that you're going to buy, you need to really be looking at what the premiums are that are being charged. So let's see, right now we've got 1 ounce Silver Eagle coin. It's a random year selection. And if you were interested in buying that, you would look over here. And you would see that if you're buying 1 to 19 of them, they have the different ways that you can pay for them. It's $37.72. All right, so 37.72, and that's on sale. Um, and yet, if we go back and we look at silver price right here, we can see that the spot price is 31.23. So that's what, a $6.50 premium that they're charging for the gold eagle. Now, if we went back and we just said some sort of silver round kind of product, let's see, silver, and let's just go to silver rounds, and we're going to pick, let's just pick some sort of, well, these things like the Lunas, those can be really expensive. I mean, the premiums on those can be huge because they're doing all the fancy artwork and stuff. And now that can make some fun gifts. Don't get me wrong, right? You get the Lunas based on the Chinese calendar, something like that. That can be a lot of fun. Here's a Christmas round that you could get um, for somebody, and that's actually not a bad premium, 34.72 on that. So those. Here's a Charlie Brown one. So those can make fun gifts that you can give to, especially giving to children or grandchildren, because it's something they can hang on to, and then they can maybe later on, if they want, sell that, or to get the money for it. But here's a real good example. Here's a 2024 1 ounce colorized round. Merry Christmas, 44.22. So that's a pretty steep premium on that because you're paying for the artistic value of it, not just the bullion value of it. But there's all kinds of these that you can get. And some people really enjoy buying these for the look, for the artistic value. So they're willing to pay the premium because they just, for them, it's the beauty that they're going after. I always like to invest in Sunshine Mint as a place for investment value. Here's a 1 ounce round Sunshine Mint, 35.22. So that's $4, a little bit, around $4 premium that would be on that coin right now. The reason why I like the Sunshine Mints is because on the back of their coins and bars, they have this thing here, and you can purchase this reader. And when you use this reader, it will tell you that it's a valid coin. It's just one way that you can, make sure that you're getting real bullion and not something that's been faked. Of course, if you take the time to build up a relationship with a good coin dealer or pawn shop, or you're buying from a reputable place like APMEX or JM Bullion or one of those kind of places, then you really mitigate the risk of getting counterfeit product. So that's the main reason why I wanted to use the APMEX chart today, just so I could remind everybody that if you're interested in some unusual gifts for the holidays, then consider maybe gold or silver and doing something like the rounds or bars from APMEX. However, you also know that I like to use the candlestick charts that I can pull up from Trading Economics because it allows me to look at, what's the market really doing from the buying and selling aspects. So here we have the 1 week look, and this is each candlestick represents 15 minutes of trading time. And you can see we dropped from 26.63, and right now we're at 26.33, but we were at a low this week down here. Excuse me, down here. Let's go ahead and zoom in here because this is a very instructive part of this chart. Now, again, I'm not trying to teach candlestick technical reading. There are many opportunities, videos, things like that that you can go to. But I would encourage you, if you're going to do day trading, if you're going to trade silver and gold based on what's happening on the markets, that you learn how to read candlesticks. But let's take a look right here. What was going on right in here, because this is very instructive. We saw we had a lot of very small candles with very small wicks, and then we had a couple of green dojis here. So you're saying something's going to happen here, something should happen here. And then you start to see these gold candle, very small reds here, and then we see this candlestick here, this red candlestick that kind of almost absorbs all of this one, most of this one. You can see it's dropping here, but then we get these greens that start climbing out again. It kind of, if you're out here later on in this trading period and you're seeing these greens, it says to you, okay, the prices are going up. Maybe I can go ahead and consider making an offer that's at the higher end because it'll probably keep climbing. Then we get into these reds that tell you, well, wait a minute, not so fast. It's probably going to drop. And sure enough, it drops. So it's a very interesting way to view what's going on. Now, what does this tell us right now? Well, if we go towards the end of the week and we're looking at this part of the week here, let's open it up. We see that we climb up and then we're dropping down, and we climb up and we're dropping down. And these red candlesticks are consistently larger than the greens that are pulling us back up. And you can see this when you look at these tops. These tops are all descending. And so it tells you that gold is probably going to keep dropping for a bit. So, if you've got some gold boards that you're, motherboards, some sort of CPUs or RAM, and you're trying to decide if I should get those into BoardSword or to your buyer, you probably want to go ahead and get those moving because we're seeing some drop going on right now. Now, of course, you could always hold on and and wait for things to come back up again, but we're kind of near highs, as you saw. Let's go back out here. Let's just take this chart and take this chart all the way out to its maximum, and you can see, man, we're at all-time highs here for gold. So how much more do you really expect gold to climb out here, in a reasonable amount of time? So the other big thing that I want to talk about with gold was some news that I saw when I was preparing for this live stream. This is out of China, and they're reporting that they just found what could be the largest gold reserve in the world in the Hunan province. They've done some samples, and going down to 6,600 to 10,000 feet, they're pulling up samples that suggest, through modeling. Now, this is really, really important. This is, modeling of what they're pulling up in these cores are suggesting that the gold reserve down there is something on the order of 1,100 tons of gold. Now, before everybody gets all excited, I mean, the market is kind of chewing on this a little bit because, that could represent $83 billion worth of gold, right? And apparently this ore that they're pulling up in the samples is of pretty good quality, something on the order of 138 grams of gold per metric ton of, burden that's on there. So, yeah. Here's the thing. Is it real? I mean, let's face it. We hear a lot of stuff out of China, and a lot of it isn't really true. So, yeah, I wouldn't get too terribly excited just yet. Although, why would they make an announcement like this if there wasn't some validity behind it? Plus, there's another reality. This stuff is down at 6,600 to 10,000 feet below the surface. That's a lot of dirt that you got to dig up in order to get to it. A lot of mine shafts and other things. So, that's going to represent a huge cost in order to get after that gold. And as Richard just commented, that could lead to gold prices dropping in a few years, because it's going to take them a few years before they can actually start getting at that gold and mining it. So, um, no immediate impacts. It's out there. If you're a really long-term investor, you want to be thinking about that because, as Richard rightly points out, that could have some impact in the long run for gold. By the way, just as a note, China produces about 10% of the world's gold. And you'd say to yourself, well, that would make them an exporter of gold, right? Well, not really, because they consume so much gold that they have to import more gold to meet their own demand. So you definitely want to think about what's going on with China and with gold. Okay, so let's see. What kind of comments did we have other than Richard's? Oh, wait a minute. Truck fan is saying that something happened with the audio. Is there anybody else who's having audio problems? It looks good on my side. The microphone is still showing that it's good. So I'm not sure there, man. But if anybody else is having audio problems, let me know. JR Cat, yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah, yeah. China telling the truth. Yeah, go figure. All right, thanks, Irish. I appreciate it. Um, so last week we talked about silver, and this week we're talking about gold. Both of them could make some really fun Christmas presents for your children or grandchildren. So just something to think about there. All righty. Let's see. Richard's asking me if I saw that they are reopening the mines in the West with gold. Yeah, I did see that. One of the challenges that most countries have when it comes to mining anything, gold, copper, we're going to see this again with copper too, is that mines are expensive. The process of extracting and refining is expensive, a lot of regulatory overhead. But yeah, it's good to see that the mines are reopening and that, we're going to be producing more of our own gold here in the U.S. We're not, the United States is not a huge producer of gold, but we're also not at the bottom. I mean, we make some pretty good, we make a pretty good amount of gold here in the U.S. as well. All righty. Well, let's now get on to our safety note for today. And like a lot of my safety notes, this one is based on occurrences of the week. We had a lot of leftovers, right? Here in the United States, we celebrated Thanksgiving, so there's leftovers, and I had taken some to the shark cage, and it had been there for a little while, so I was asking myself, is it still safe to eat? And so, by the way, I did not get food poisoning, so nothing really bad happened. But it was just the whole question of how long are leftovers? How long is food okay to eat? What about temperature concerns? Now, Mrs. Shark went to culinary school after she got out of the Navy and became a chef. And so the temperature danger zone was drilled into her mind repeatedly. That's a huge thing for restaurants and for food, anybody that deals with food. So that got us to thinking and talking about the temperature danger zone and stuff like that. Plus, when I was working with the Red Cross after the hurricane came through, I did a lot of the food support, and that was a big thing. We were what they call temping, running the temperature on food to make sure that we weren't going to make anybody sick in the shelters and stuff. All right, so what is the temperature danger zone and what does it really mean? So the two numbers that you need to keep in the back of your head are the either side of this temperature danger zone here. So let's do this and let's draw this box right here. So here's your temperature danger zone, and let me make that line a little bit bigger. So this is your temperature danger zone. Now, for my US viewers, that's 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 140. So 40 degrees Fahrenheit up to 140 Fahrenheit. You can see the numbers here in Celsius for those of you watching that use the metric system. What does this mean? Well, what this is telling you is that bacteria grows inside of this danger zone. And so the longer food is sitting inside of that temperature danger zone, the more susceptible you will be to bacterial type infections and nasties. So the basic rule of thumb is that if the food is inside of this temperature danger zone for less than 2 hours, it can still be used, it can be sold, and it can be put back in the refrigerator. So there hasn't been enough time for the nasties to start growing. You can put it back in the refrigerator and it'll be okay. If it has been in this temperature danger zone from 2 to 4 hours, then you can still eat it and you can still sell it, but don't put it back in the refrigerator because the nasties have started to grow. And if it's anything over 4 hours, then you need to get rid of it. When we were doing the Red Cross settings, this was we were temping, and because we were feeding people, we weren't thinking, it wasn't it's going to go back in the fridge or get sold. It was just food. So if it was once it got over, or if it was hot food that got below 140 or a cold food that got above 40, we started paying attention to the time, and then after 4 hours, it had to get thrown away because we didn't want to make anybody sick. So that's the temperature danger zone. That's one area that you need to think about. Of course, as I was researching it, it also brought me down the line of, we buy these foods, we take them to our work sites or job locations, we bring them home, and they have all these interesting, sell by, use by, those kind of things. So I thought that would be kind of fun to look at real quick too. Basically, when you see a sell by date on there, your food is still good for another 10 days after the sell by date. So it's a note to the stores that at that date you have to take that food off of the shelves. Now, some stores that they will deliver it to shelters and stuff where it will be consumed within the 10 days. If you have bought something and you're past that sell by date, you've got 10 days. Make sure that you have properly refrigerated it. Use by dates, that's like, we want the flavor to be the best or the texture to be the best or something like that. So that's an important one. And then the expiration dates, it doesn't mean that if it's past the expiration date and you eat it, you're going to die. That's primarily used for things like, your vitamins and those kind of things. It's telling you that it's not going to be as potent or it's not going to, be as effective to use. So you want to pay attention. And I saw a note there, I think it was Truck Fan, who said this is a weird safety note for a scrapping channel. But hey, we all eat. And when we're out scrapping or we're in our workshops scrapping, we're dealing with food and things like that all the time. And how many times have you brought, your leftovers in and forgot to put them in the fridge while you were working on something? Or you're out running around in your vehicle and, your lunch is out there with you and, you're scratching your head. Hey, is that ham sandwich still good to eat? It's definitely something that you want to pay attention to because I did see a note in here. Who was it? Somebody made the comment that all it takes is one bad oyster. And that is very, very true. All you need to do is get that one bad oyster that you're dealing with, and man, it is just not fun anymore. All righty. Well, let us get back to let me do that. Yeah, we're there, and let's go see what kind of comments our food questions brought up for us. Uh, ba, 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 ba. Yeah, Richard saying sharks giving cooking tips. No, don't go get your wife. Yeah, don't do that. That would be bad. That'd be a bad thing, man. Bad thing. Um, Truck fan is saying that a lot of Norwegian food has best before, often good after. Oh, yeah, interesting. That's cool. Oh, and you also bring up the thing about eggs. This is another one here in America. Before our eggs get to our grocery stores, unless you're buying from the farm, they've been washed, and that's why in the U.S. Eggs have to be refrigerated, unless you got it from a farm where they haven't washed them. When a chicken lays an egg, there's a natural protective coating on the egg, and so your fresh farms bought eggs can last longer than the refrigerated eggs that you get from the store. But still, eggs last a long time, right? Like 3 to 5 weeks if you keep them refrigerated. If you have to get them refrigerated, eggs just last a good long time. So that makes them a really good food to have. Let's see. HH Recycling says he's eating 4-day old sushi that was frozen in the truck. Good luck, man. Let me know how that works out for you. There was a commercial running around here. Ah, man, what was it? Was it a Geico commercial or something like that? I forget who it was, but the commercial was, it was about uh, bad decisions that people make. And it's like this guy goes to a truck stop and he buys sushi from a truck stop. So it's like, buying something or other. It's smarter than truck stop sushi. Yeah, JR Cat, I agree, man. Sniff test is really, really important because if it smells bad, man, just don't. Just don't. Yep, yep, just don't. Patrick is saying honey, the best in the world, local honey, and then eggs 40 days. Honey is one of those very rare foods. I think it might be the only food that never goes bad. They have recovered honey from the pyramids that was buried with the pharaoh and those kind of things. And once it had crystallized, but once they melted it back down again, it was still safe to eat. So honey is one of those foods that never goes bad. That's an important one to think about. Make sure you've always got some honey because it'll never go bad. And I love the taste of honey, and we have a lot of honey. Asheville used to bill itself as the bee capital of America or something like that. I mean, it was they take their bees and their honey very, very seriously here in Asheville. So lots of really good honey here in the Asheville area. Yeah, honey can crystallize, but you can always melt it back down again and reuse it. So, all right. So pay attention to your food when you're snacking and eating, and pay attention to those dates. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I've got a cast iron stomach. I can eat anything. It's not going to bother me," until it bothers you. And then it's just not fun at all. All right. Well, it is time to now move on to our next favorite metal. I think this is a metal that just about everybody loves scrapping and getting and talking about. And we're talking about copper. Um, I know that there's a lot of people that they'll refer to copper as red gold and stuff. You know, Copper is a really good, really just very useful and functional metal. It's really important in industry. Hey, David, Carl, great to have you here. Um, so and we scrappers, we deal with the fluctuation in copper prices all the time. All right. So probably the first thing is let's talk about what does trading economics have for their summary here. Copper futures climbed above 417 a pound on Friday. Now, this is important because what they're saying is that the copper futures. So what a future is that is the traders have said, I'm going to buy your copper at a certain price in the future. So it's them saying, it's the traders saying, here's what I think the prices are going to go up to or down to. And this is really, really interesting and important because as I was researching this one, I saw that there are futures going out to July of 2029, right? So 5 years from now, where they're saying they'll buy the copper at 450 a pound. There's also more recent futures going to that are compare that to futures that are out at 392. So what is that saying? It's saying that the people that the big industrial kind of buyers and sellers of copper still believe that copper is a metal that's going to increase in value. It's going to continue to be important, and you just have to pay attention to industry dynamics for what's going on in the nearer term kind of scenarios. These copper future prices here were driven by expectations that Chinese authorities may announce an additional policy support measures during their meetings this week. Okay. And that the incoming president here in the U.S. Might issue has threatened to issue tariffs. And that could lead us into a tariff war. And trust me, nobody wins a tariff war. I mean, nobody wins. And the people that get screwed every time are the consumers. So it doesn't matter which side of the pond you're on. When nations engage in tariffs war, we're the people that are going to lose that one. All right. What's driving the price for copper, of course, is are we continuing down the road of electrification, and not just EVs, but we've got to rebuild infrastructure. Here in the U.S., our infrastructure is old. We saw from here locally in Western North Carolina when Helene came through, how many power lines came down, how many, our water pipes and system that got destroyed. So U.S. infrastructure is constantly undergoing repairs and upgrades. And, as we upgrade our electrical grids, that means a lot of copper. Now, yes, they are putting in more and more aluminum into both infrastructure and consumer products, but nothing beats copper when it comes to the need to move electrons around. So copper is just a very, very good industrial metal. As we look at the prices here, and we're going to go pop over here to our candlestick charts. Here is the 1 month view. Each candlestick represents 1 hour of trading. You'd see we had this really heavy drop off at the beginning of the month, and then we've had some climb up and drop off and climb, a lot of volatility going on here. If we pop back to just our last week, we see that overall we were climbing out. Let's do this. Overall, we were climbing out here for the week. We kind of flattened out around here midweek, had a little climb and then drop off at the end of the week. So, from our scrapping perspective, because most of us as scrappers we're kind of, we want to know what's going to happen next week. Should we bring in our copper next week or should we be holding on to it? Bottom line, I just don't see anything that tells me that the scrap yards are going to be motivated to really do a whole lot of change of prices. Um, there, there might be some minor ups and downs here, but I just don't see a whole lot going on for scrapyard prices for your copper right now. So I would say stick with your strategic concept for what you're doing with your copper. What do I mean by that? When I deal with copper, I keep 10% of my higher grade copper, so my Bear Bright or my number one behind in what I'm behind. In, I keep that in reserve for when we have some really significant price spikes, and then I sell off the rest of the copper as I have enough to make it economically feasible to take it down to the scrapyard to sell it. I don't exactly know what is going to happen here in my local scenario for prices because I haven't started selling into my local yards here. I'm buying from people. I need to start turning around and selling to people, right? Because right now I'm in negative cash flow world, so I need to work on that. Um, but I can't really tell you. I'm looking. If y'all want to go ahead and post what's been going on with copper prices in your local area, that could be instructive for everybody. If you've seen some changes up and down, if they're staying about the same, go ahead and share your notes in the comments there. I will say that some of the other economists that are out there, some of the big folks, like Bank of America and those kind of folks, they're saying the copper could get as high as $5 a pound in 2025. So prices going up another dollar-ish a pound over the course of the next year. So, there's the good news, right? The good news is copper will continue to increase in value. Later on, Truck Fan, have a great day, man. We'll see you over on Irish's channel. So we would get nervous if they were saying it was going to decrease in value, but they're still saying it's going up, but it's not going up a lot. So yeah, I would keep using your copper for cash flow. Keep it moving because we're going to see some increases, but nothing fantastic. So I'm looking over here now at the comments. Let's go over here and see what kind of comments we're getting on copper and its market value. Let's see. Roger says he took some in on Friday number 2 and he was getting $2.95 a pound. Okay. David saying turn and burn, keep it moving. Yep. Patrick saying cash is king, baby. Cash is king, right? Get that copper in there, get your cash, because you can do a lot of stuff with cash. And all of our metals, all of our scrap, we say it's got value, but it really only has value until you turn it into something that you can keep as value. And no, I'm not going to get into the argument of fiat money versus gold and silver and Bitcoin and stuff like that. That's a whole nother discussion to have. Patrick says, yeah, still keeping 10%. Yep. It's the good call, right? It's a good thing to do. At least I believe it's a good thing to do, and that's the approach that I'm taking. Tell you what I really ought to invest in is coffee, right? That's what I really ought to be investing in. Oh, man. All righty. Didn't see a whole lot of prices come in here from folks, but that's okay. Maybe you weren't taking stuff in. It's it's the holiday season, right? So especially here in the U.S., folks are out, buying gifts and stuff, right? Although I have noticed that a lot of my European friends, when you all talk about what's going on over in Europe, and some of my friends here in the U.S. have made similar comments that they say that a lot of the tech kind of folks, right? Your technician people, your HVAC people, your plumbers, your electricians, they'll hold on to their copper and aluminum, and then they'll bring it in at the end of the year, and then they'll use that to go out and buy their Christmas gifts or give bonuses to their employees. And that's why prices can sometimes drop during the winter, especially in the November December timeframe. So that's always an interesting thing to keep an eye on as well. Um, I noticed that the HVAC company that's right next door to me in my new digs, they don't keep any of their scrap. They put it out back, and there's two scrappers that show up 2 or 3 times a week. And if there's stuff back there, man, it's gone. It does not sit there very long. Now, I've told both those scrappers that I'm not going to take the stuff. I'm not doing that anymore. And if they come across computers and stuff, that I'll be interested in talking to them about the electronic scrap that they come across. But it's interesting because the HVAC company, they're like, hey, we don't care what happens to us as long as it disappears, right? We don't have any contracts with these people. And both of those scrappers have said to me, well, they really appreciate that because, I'm sure they're concerned that if I change my approach to this, that because I'll be there every day, right? And so as soon as I see the stuff coming off the trucks, I could stick it in the shark cage and they'd never get it. But I'm going to try to focus exclusively on electronic scrap in Shark Cage 3.0 and not mess with the heavier, dirtier kind of scrap that street scrapping and appliances and those kind of things. JR Cat says, me go to Walmart this time of year? No way. Oh, that's funny, man. I tell you what, I've gone to a lot of online buying. I end up getting a lot of my stuff delivered to the house, whether it's with Amazon or the other, just the people that I buy from directly, having it shipped right here. Because yeah, I'm not a big friend of going to the stores at this time of year either. Now, Mrs. Shark, of course, she has to do the grocery shopping and things regularly, but her approach is she goes there early in the morning. She'll go to the YMCA to work out at 6 o'clock in the morning and then head over to Walmart on the way back. And, so she doesn't have to deal with the crowds as much by doing that. Richard is saying, let's see, my friend and I, luckily that I made nice living, but when I didn't, I supplemented my income scrapping. Okay, yeah. I don't need to scrap, but I love it and I can't stop. I hear you, man. I hear you. For a lot of people, scrapping is just a hobby. And as a hobby, it's so much fun. I and many other people have made the transition to being full-time scrappers, recyclers, which adds a whole different level of twist to it. But you know what? If I wanted to, I'd have no problem just saying, you know what? I'm not going to take the pressure. I'm just going to go back to being a hobby scrapper and go do something else. My problem is I enjoy work, so I suck at retirement, and I can't play golf worth a damn. I can't catch a cold fishing. So I do scrapping and recycling, and I'm just one of these folks that if I'm going to do something, I'm all in. So, for me, it's a full-time gig, but it's a great hobby for a lot of people. Roger says he's trying to go full into electronics too, but yeah, he's never going to turn down an HVAC or electrical. Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. It's very, very tempting. Um, uh, and you gotta. It's tough sometimes, right? Yeah, and he's not going to steal another person's gig either. It's those kind of relationships are important. I'm still working on building those relationships here. In fact, David said, build those relationships. I'm still working on getting those relationships built up here in Western North Carolina. When I was down in Florida in the Jacksonville area, and I was doing this, doing the street scrapping and things. It was funny how the street scrappers, some of them very competitive, dashing around, trying to get in front of each other. But the relationship that I had with folks was, if we saw each other on the road, we'd pull over and we'd do some trading and bartering with each other before we headed to the yards, or we'd say hi to each other at the yards and stuff like that. So it's always interesting to see how those relationships kind of develop. Let's see, what's Patrick saying here? I used to fish at about 5,000 euros worth of fishing gear. Oh man, yeah, fishing can get really, really expensive, can it? Holy cow! I mean, yeah, some people really put a lot of money into that, and golf too. Golf, the amount of money that people spend on golfing. Oh my God. Hey, at least as scrappers, your hobby can kind of pay for itself, right? All righty. Well, let's get on to our stock market discussion. Holy cow! I almost forgot about our stock market discussion. I got so wrapped up in all the comments that were coming in because they're great comments, and I really like seeing those and talking that stuff. So our stock market discussion here. The first thing I want to remind everybody is that when I do a stock market discussion, the data is coming from the Value Line Investment Survey, plus I supplement it with additional research. The Value Line Investment Survey, strictly numbers. They do not take any advertising. It's all subscription. So they make their money by providing subscribers like myself the best possible data and the most unbiased assessments of that data that they can. So they're just looking at the straight numbers, and they're doing their analysis based on the numbers and things that are going on in the industries and the market conditions. So they're not paid to promote anybody. That's what I like about them. Now, again, I am not sponsored by Value Line any more than I am APMEX. But hey, if you're from Value Line or APMEX and you want to talk about that, come on, I'm willing to talk. Now, this week's investment survey, one of the industries that they took a look at is called the steel industry, but a lot of the steel companies are also recycling companies. And so these are names that many, especially here in the US, but overseas as well, many of you know these names as scrapyards, as well as the players in the steel industry. The first one we're going to talk about is CMC. Now, CMC is not qualified as an investment based on my assessments of what I would do to invest in someone. And for those of you that are new and you don't know what that means, is I require that an investment have increasing cash flow per share, earnings per share, or dividends per share for the last 17 years. I will allow them one flat year or a negative year, or in the case of dividends, only flat years, no dividend, no negative years. And the reason for this is that I'm just a boring dividend investor. I want to see my money grow, and I don't want to have to worry every night, whether or not I'm making money on that investment or not. So I'm a very boring dividend investor. And I can tell you right now that CMC is not a company that I would invest in. All right, their dividend is only 1.2%, and that's on a $59.64 investment, and they're not qualified on any of my categories. So why do I bring it up? Well, because we all have seen CMC out there, Commercial Metals, or their respective plants. So we know that they're out there. We know that they're they're in the world. And so folks may have thought to themselves, hey, I wonder if I should invest in them because, they're in the business that we're in. So I wouldn't get too excited about investing in CMC. The other company that's out there that we can take a look at is called, there we go, Radius. Radius Recycling. They used to be Schnitzer. So a lot of folks, you still may think of them as Schnitzer, but their name now is Radius Recycling. So their ticker is RDUS. And hey, their yield 4.2% isn't bad. Okay, that's not a bad yield. And at $17.66, that's a very reasonable buy-in. That's the kind of thing that most people could, go ahead and buy into that. And so you open up your account. I use Charles Schwab, but you can use any one of those buying services, and then you could purchase this stock. However, I want to emphasize this. They are not qualified by my criteria. First of all, they didn't. They look at this. Their dividends were not really good, right? Their dividend here you're talking their dividend per share. And look at this. They were flat, and then they jumped up here for a couple years, and then they've just been flat all along since they made that big price hike. So, yeah, does that give you a whole lot of confidence in them? Well, yeah, they're not qualified for me, but because we're in the recycling business, there is something that I want to bring to your attention about Radius Recycling. They engage in recycling ferrous and non-ferrous scrap metals, as well as used and salvaged vehicles, and they make finished products. So for recyclers, they're a very important part of our world, because that's the kind of place that drives our recycling industry. And so they have invested in the kind of mills and furnaces and techniques that will take our scrap and then turn it into finished products or the products that other people can use. Your steel, when you take in your shred steel, there's all kinds of junk in that, and that needs to get separated out for the various grades of steel. The same with your copper and stuff. So it's really important that companies like Radius Recycling are out there. And the good news is that they're going to continue, and they have been continuing to invest in the technologies that are necessary to let them recycle the materials that we're bringing in. Now then, the other thing that I want to point out about these folks is that they generate 54% of their sales out of North America, but they are an international player. So you may have seen them even outside of the United States. Now, according to the folks at the investment survey, Radius Recycling is well positioned for the long term. They maintain a focus on recycled materials, leveraging investments in advanced metal recovery technologies to meet the anticipated demand for metals like copper and aluminum. And remember, we've been talking about copper and aluminum and the challenges of virgin material getting to market because it's so hard to mine. And a lot of the mines have either got political unrest or regulatory overhead that makes it difficult. So recycling is going to be really, really important. Excuse me. So they're saying that these shares offer wide recovery potential along with heightened risk. So this is not a safe bet by any stretch. But they do offer a good dividend, and they should have good upside potential. So, if I'm looking at these folks as maybe, if I'm going to take a risk somewhere, if I'm going to take a risk somewhere on a business that doesn't meet my criteria, it better be in a business that I understand. And I understand recycling and recycling yards and that industry. And so this would be a company where I might take a risk in because I understand the industry and the long-term potential of the industry and the importance of a company like Radius Recycling in helping the world meet the demand that will come for recycled products. So, in summary, Radius Recycling is not qualified by my standards of an investment, but I am considering investing in Radius Recycling because it would meet that risk requirement that I might consider. But I would be doing it not so much as a dividend in my a dividend adding to my portfolio. I would do it with the realization that I'm taking more risk in that investment. Um, the other steel company that I want to talk about, this is especially important for folks here in the U.S. I don't think I have any viewers from Japan, so it's going to be for my U.S. audience. U.S. Steel. I'm sure that a lot of you have heard that Nippon Steel of Japan wants to buy U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel wants to get bought by Nippon, but the unions are against it, and the current administration and the future administration are not in favor of the sale. So even though both companies have agreed to it, there's still a lot that's going on here. So I don't know how that one's going to play out. I did note that right now the stock is $38 around $38 a share. That's well below the $55 all cash offering that Nippon Steel is making. So there would be the shareholders would really benefit if the sale goes through. But there's a lot of regulatory hurdles ahead of this deal being done. So stay tuned to that. Pay attention to how that plays out. I don't know if I'm not going to make that investment. For me, I don't play those games. But if you take a riskier approach to it and you want to give it a shot, man, go for it. It might be something there. All right. Well, Simple Man, welcome to coming in to the show. Let's see. Bill joined us as well. We are just about ready to wrap up. And hey, thank you, David. Don't forget to hit the like button if you haven't already done so. I appreciate that. This time I did set up the auto redirect. So that means that when I shut this down here in just a minute, we are going to dash across the Atlantic Ocean, end up over in Ireland, where we will be joining our friend Scrapping Irish for his live stream. It's a very different look and feel than this one. He brings up a panel. You never know where we're going to go in the discussions. He'll start out by asking, what's everybody up to? And who knows where that's going to take us. I look forward to seeing you all over in Ireland. If I don't see you over there, have a very safe week and enjoy yourselves, but be safe. All right, let's get on over to Ireland.